Sorry, a little enthusiastic there. Good evening. Welcome to the March 3rd, 2026 meeting of the Manhattan City Commission. Would you please call the roll?
Mayor Adamchak,
Here.
Commissioner McCullough.
Yes.
Commissioner Fox.
Here.
Commissioner Morrison.
Here.
Commissioner Von Lintel.
Here.
Mayor, we have 5 commissioners present. The quorum of 3 is met.
Thank you. Would you please rise and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a proclamation to issue tonight honoring International Women's Day. Yusha Reddy, the president of, and Barbara Gatewood, web coordinator of the American Association of University Women, are here to accept the proclamation. Oh, I couldn't see you back there. Whereas in 1911, International Women's Day was first honored in Austria, Denmark, Germany, and Switzerland, when more than 1 million women and men attended rallies campaigning for women's rights to work, vote, be trained, hold public office, and for an end to gender discrimination. And whereas in 1977, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution calling on member states to proclaim a day for women's rights and international peace. And following the United Nations lead, each year the United States President issues a proclamation calling on all citizens to observe March as National Women's History Month, as well as a separate proclamation on International Women's Day, which is March 8th. And whereas advancing the rights, opportunities, and full participation of women and girls is the great unfinished business of the 21st century. And whereas International Women's Day is a day to celebrate the collective power of women, uphold women's achievements, recognize challenges, focus greater attention on women's rights and gender equality, encourage and mobilize all people to do their part to bring about positive change. Now, therefore, I, Susan E. Adamchak, Mayor of the City of Manhattan, do hereby proclaim Sunday, March 8th, 2026 as International Women's Day in the City of Manhattan to motivate and unite friends, colleagues, and the community to actively give their support in order to advance and gain gender equality, to give, to gain. In witness thereof, I have set my hand and caused the seal of Manhattan, Kansas to be affixed.
Thank you, Mayor Adamchak, for the proclamation. This is our 11th year celebrating International Women's Day. I'm president of AAUW, which is the American Association of University Women. It's an organization for everybody, of course, not just women and not just from universities. But we are celebrating on Sunday, March 8th at the Holiday Inn on campus, and we have 5 wonderful panelists. 3 of them are AAUW scholarship recipients, and all of them are from K-State Graduate School. We have Barbara Baker. She's a first-generation college student. Miriam Gasimpour from Iran, and she is doing her master's in photography. Nicole Kucherov, who is doing a doctorate in entomology. Megan Rice, she is a doctorate in organic chemistry. And Minusha Vikaram Singh, and she's from Sri Lanka, and she's doing a doctorate in biology. This is open to the public. We have social hour at 5. 6 o'clock is the dinner catered by Nico's, and at 7 o'clock are the panelists. And it is, like I said, the program is free to everybody. Dinner is $30. But this is something we want to celebrate in our community. We have a lot of women that do wonderful things and are very inspirational. But we also want to recognize our youth and our future leaders from Kansas State University. So we are excited about the program, and hopefully you can come and participate. Like I said, it's open to the public, and you can still go to AAUW Manhattan website, and you can RSVP and join us. It's open to everybody, once again, not just women. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Get that scan out. Okay, there we go.
Thank you. We are now open for public comments on any item which is not included on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone who would like to make any remarks? All right. Seeing no one approaching, we will close public comments. Commissioners, do you have any comments? Andrew? Jim? Larry?
Just like to say that Manhattan Public Library sale was once again, your distinguished mayor was working there, and a huge success. It was fun.
I would like to call attention, I think we distributed some of these reports several months ago or at the beginning of the year, but we have more in stock. I would like to encourage you to take a look at it. It's a very packed snapshot of what we accomplished during 2025. It's also available on our website at www.manhattanks.gov/year-end report. I've been distributing them around town and have gotten some really positive feedback. I've had a chance to do several speaking engagements, which I enjoy quite a bit. I like being able to let people know about what is going on in the city. Last week, I spoke to Leadership Manhattan, which is a training opportunity for young professionals and some high school students. Commissioner Morrison Fox and myself attended the legislative coffee on Saturday morning, at which our state legislators talked about some of the issues they are dealing with at the state level. Yesterday was very exciting. We finally had the groundbreaking for Sunflower Flats, a project which has been in the making since 2021. Had some fits and starts in the last 6 months due to the government shutdown, due to some other bureaucratic issues, but this will bring 62, I believe, new housing units for seniors online in Manhattan. It's the first project in what is envisioned to be a campus of low-income housing in our downtown area. The event was very well attended despite the not fabulous weather yesterday, but it was very exciting to finally see that project go forward. Finally, several of us from city staff and myself had the opportunity to tour our wastewater treatment plant this last week, and it was incredibly interesting. The staff there are willing to offer tours if you want to get together a group to do that. It was a really interesting learning opportunity. I know some of the other commissioners visited last year. Yeah, been there. But, well, I was the last one, so anyway. Thank you. We'll now move on to the consent agenda. Commissioners, do you have any comments on this?
I'd like to remove item D, 1 and 2 from the consent and move it down.
Okay, thank you. And do we have, can we just have a show of hands of people who intend to speak regarding the Roger Wrights? Okay, all right, so I will ask that we also pull item E1 from the consent agenda so that we can have a more robust discussion about that. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda absent those items?
So move.
I move. we
Mayor,
approve-
we need to open up public comment for the rest of the consent agenda.
Sorry. Yes, sorry. Is there anyone who would like to make any comments on any of the other consent agenda items? Seeing no movement towards the podium, I will close public comment and ask for a motion.
I move we approve the consent agenda accepting item D, 1 and 2, and item 3E, and put those at the end of the agenda,
The end of the agenda or?
the end of the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Second?
Okay. Chelsea, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Fox,
Yes.
Commissioner Morrison,
Yes.
Commissioner Von Lintel,
Yes.
Mayor Adamchak.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. I would like to point out that we have, the consent agenda includes the appointment of 11 individuals, I believe, to various boards, community boards that advise the commission, and I would like to very much thank those individuals for their willingness to serve in that capacity. All right, so now, let us discuss item D1, authorizing the city manager to execute a grant agreement with Habitat for Humanity of the Northern Flint Hills in an amount up to $150,000 for the 2026 Home Rehabilitation and Repair Assistance Program.
Mayor, I raised the question, in the documents, there's a typo. It says we're giving him $100,050, and the written part is correct, but the numerical part is not, so we need to change it. And I think when we had the presentation, we discussed the mortgage, whether there would be a mortgage, and it's included in the document. But we also had discussion whether it should be 5 or 10, and I don't know that we made a decision on whether it should be a 5 or 10-year mortgage on those grants. And I would suggest that we amend that to a 10-year mortgage on the grant request.
I believe that was the meeting that I missed several weeks ago. Could you, I was not present for that discussion.
Maybe Stephanie.
Stephanie, can you just refresh us on that? I did read the minutes, but I don't recall that item.
Sure. So I can kind of give a little bit of background of why we settled on the 5 years. That is how the existing mortgages that we have under the CDBG home rehab program, they now have a 5-year mortgage on them. Previously, they did have 10 years. That was a really long time for people to not be able to make any additional improvements to their house. The way that worked is if you had a mortgage, an existing mortgage on your home, you weren't eligible to receive any further assistance. And so we know that homes rapidly decline and there's maintenance that needs to be done, so that was why the 5-year was recommended. It's ultimately up to you guys what you want to do though.
And to be clear, that 5-year, we're kind of reclaiming 20% each year.
We would forgive
Bring that-
20%
give-
each year, or if they moved out within that 5-year period, we would collect 20% for each year they didn't fulfill.
Right. So if we change it to 10, then it'd be like 10%.
10% each year.
And during that period, you can't do anything else? You can't?
You can't.
Other
Correct, you wouldn't be able
improvements?
to have an additional mortgage or an additional home rehab. And it would also, we can change that if you want to allow for multiple mortgages to be there. It just means that when they go to sell their home, they would have to pay back multiple mortgages that are held against that property rather than just one.
It also puts a longer reporting burden on the homeowner and on staff.
And on it really would be Habitat for Humanity. They were our only response to the RFP we put out. So Habitat would have to keep track for 10 years versus 5 of those mortgages.
And the maximum anybody can get is 25,000?
Correct.
Is that right? So,
I believe that's right.
I mean, the most you're talking is 5,000 a year with a 5-year.
Yes, 25,000.
I think I would feel, I don't think I would feel comfortable hamstringing a homeowner for 10 years to not make additional repairs if they are needed. So I'm not sure that I would agree with your suggestion to make it to be 10 years.
Well, in my opinion, we didn't make a decision, so that's my purpose of coming up with it. Coming in, I did ask Josh if they could live with the 10-year, since they've been there. He acknowledged to me that that was a doable thing. If there's some prohibition, I don't know why there'd be a prohibition for another mortgage. Legally, I don't think there would be one unless under our structure, we would prohibit it. We don't,
Yeah.
do we?
Oh, right now, we just say that you can't, I think it's every 5 years, I'd want to check on that, that you can only be a recipient of this grant every 5 years, and that kind of corresponded with the mortgage. We could certainly keep that a 5-year, that you can't be a recipient, so you would be a recipient every 5 years, but you would have a 10-year mortgage. We could certainly structure it that way.
Well, as I recall, what we're trying to do is make sure people have a safe home and they stay in their home, and we're giving them a boost to do something that they could not do otherwise, most likely. And so the mere fact an extra 10 years is making, to me, they have a safe, better secure home for 10 years rather than 5 years selling it and doing something different for our money. And that's the only reason I bring it up. We just need to make a decision whether it's 5 or 10. And my idea would be to do 10, but that's up to the commission.
I guess I feel like given the relatively small amount, probably, they're not all gonna be 25,000, they're gonna be
Correct.
10, 15, that probably 5 years is adequate for what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, so Katie, would you like a motion to establish that period as 5 years, or,
It's in there.
yeah, that is,
The 5 years currently in the
is
agreement.
in there.
Yeah, and then we will make the, Commissioner Morrison, you pointed out the 1,050, we'll make that adjustment in the agreement.
Thank you. Andrew, do you have an opinion on the duration?
5 seems fine. 5 seems fine.
All right, thank you. With that consensus being reported, can we move for a motion to approve item D1?
We also need to see if there's any comment on this.
Sorry. Public comment on item D1. Is there anyone who wants to make any remarks? All right, thank you. Public comment is again closed. Do we have a motion?
I would move that we authorize the city manager to execute a grant agreement with Habitat for Humanity of the Northern Flint Hills Incorporated, an amount up to $150,000 for the 2026 Home Rehabilitation and Repair Assistance Program.
Second.
All right, Chelsea, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Fox,
Yes?
Commissioner Morrison,
Yes?
Commissioner Von Lintel,
Yes.
Mayor Adamchak,
Yes,
Commissioner McCullough.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
thank you. Randy, do you have a presentation on this?
I've got a few slides if you want to pull them up. I don't really have a presentation, but I can go through some of the basics. I guess if you have specific questions, I'll entertain those and see what I can do.
Well, Mayor, I raised the question and asked it to be withdrawn. Not that I have any particular concern, it's that the information that I read did not indicate a clarity of what we are doing, and what we're doing is signing up to enter a lawsuit. And that is something that would be of significance. These kinds of lawsuits go on forever. If you see the TV ads where they got $30 billion for the asbestos folks that go on forever, that's one of these kind of cases. And it's just, according to the document, there is no liability to the city. The lawyers only get paid when and if they recover. And I gather it's probably a defensive move more than an offensive move, of thinking we're gonna get a bunch of money. But if there are problems, at least we may have some smokescreen to defend ourselves. But I just wanted to make sure it's clear. It's just not hiring lawyers to do contracts. I would assume they solicited us, or we thought we had an issue, so we contacted them, but, that,
Yeah, you're right. We were solicited for this. For us, it's really more about peace of mind and having the opportunity to get the sampling done. If we wanted to participate, it's really about meeting a deadline to participate, which requires us to have that sampling completed and input by March 31. I will say that from our perspective, we don't particularly have any concern that they're going to find the contaminant. It's really an opportunity to finally have a little peace of mind and have the sampling done for us. And if it is found, then we could potentially be eligible for that claim to recapture any funds that become available.
and again, you folks had to educate me on what all they're looking for. Could you give us a quick idea of what the concern is? The companies, the nature of what they're looking for
Sure.
liability?
There have been 2 settlements already with DuPont and 3M over the past couple of years. Pretty major settlements for PFAS and PFAS-related microplastic chemicals that are starting to become more heavily regulated by the EPA. They're establishing rules on the water and the wastewater side. So the next round is with companies that developed the firefighting foam, chemicals that also contain these PFAS chemicals. And so we already know that there's some settlements out there available, and there could be more. But these are very, very highly watched contaminants now. They are, we've tested for them in the past under unregulated contaminant programs, but they are establishing rules through the EPA on the water and the wastewater side that are going to impact us in the future, potentially.
Randy, we know we have PFAS. Is it the level that we're worried about? I mean,
Well,
that's the microplastics that are in everybody and everything now.
we assume that there's PFAS, at least in the wastewater,
Yeah,
because all of that came from, wherever it comes from, materials, clothing, et cetera,
sure.
will make it into the wastewater treatment system.
I mean, it's pretty
far
much
as
a
wa-
given, isn't it, that all those plastic
Not
bottles? are-
necessarily in the source water.
Okay,
I mean, our source water is groundwater. There's no known contamination sites.
okay, so
For
this is,
this?
we're testing the ground, this is
Yes, this would be
the
for
water we're gonna drink. Okay, I see. Not the water, but isn't there the danger at some point when they're going to ask us, when we put things back, the sludge back, if it's full of PFAS?
On the wastewater side, yes. It's becoming more and more evident that there will be some regulations we'll have to abide by in the
But
future.
this only deals with the water that comes from
This
wells?
particular one is for the source water,
Okay, thank you.
yes.
And at this point, there's no financial obligation on the part of the city.
0.
The testing will be done by a lab recruited by the law firm, and we will just be a named entity within the lawsuit.
Correct. There are several other Kansas municipalities that have signed up for this as well. In our opinion, there's not a lot that could be negative when it comes to this.
Sure.
But if we find out that we have some, it's better to know than not to know.
Yeah,
All right. Thank you. I appreciate our being proactive with this. As Commissioner Morrison indicated, this could be a very long process. We've seen it with litigation against tobacco companies, against opioid distributors, and this could be years in the making, but I think it's no burden on us, and we do have that benefit of getting this benchmark testing done. So,
Yeah, I think that's a positive.
is there any other comments from the commissioners? Is there anyone in the room who would like to make public comment on this item? Seeing no one approaching, we will again close public comment, and we have a motion to approve item D2.
I move we authorize the city administration to finalize and the mayor and city clerk to execute a contract for legal services between the city, Stagg, Louisa LLC, and Perry and Trent LLC for the representation related to polyfluoride, what is that you doing? Polyfluoralkali substances, PFAS litigation.
I'd second.
Chelsea?
Commissioner Morrison,
Yes.
Commissioner Von Lintel,
Yes.
Mayor Adamchak,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes,
Commissioner Fox.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Our final item from the consent agenda is approval to develop a recommendation for Dr. Roger Wrights at Union Pacific Depot. I'd like to clarify that this is not going to be renaming the depot. It will be recognition of Dr. Wrights's fascination and appreciation of trains, and a commemoration to a local citizen who has served us for decades, both in his capacity as a very compassionate physician and as a public servant. So with that clarification, please make your presentation.
I don't know what I'm going to present on now, Mayor, but no.
You can sit down.
Yeah, thanks. Dr. Roger Wrights, the memorial recommendation. Staff received a request from Mr. Mike Madsen, and I'm going to have him come up here and speak to that request, other than kind of the factual overview that I have here. We reviewed that request, presented it to the Park Board and Historic Resources Board. Both boards were very supportive in creating some sort of recognition at the depot. As you mentioned, Dr. Wrights served the community as a physician and educator, state legislator, and a city commissioner. He's a significant contributor to the restoration of the depot as it underwent that restoration. So it is fitting that this location be the site for that recognition. And what we're asking the commission for tonight is basically the permission to proceed with the process to bring you an official recommendation of what that recognition could look like. We want to form kind of an internal committee of historians, the Wrights family, as well as city staff, to create what that recognition looks like at that site. We would put those options before the Park Board and the Historic Resources Board for their recommendations, and then the commission would be presented with a specific recommendation for approval at a future date. And with that,
Sorry for
Mr.
stealing your
Madsen, I'll
thunder.
invite you up.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, Mike Madsen, 3947 Hyaville Place here in Manhattan. This started when some friends of Dr. Wrights and family encouraged me to invite Roger onto my radio show on Veterans Day, which happened to have been the man's 93rd birthday. And so we had a wonderful conversation, and from that dialogue sprung this idea to have some sort of a recognition of Dr. Wrights publicly within the community. And I do want to point out that words have meaning, and this is not a memorial per se, because the man is still with us, and we hope he remains with us for a number of years. And so as Aaron mentioned, we started the process, started conversations. The family asked me to run interference for them throughout the various city committees, had conversations with Aaron and his team. He suggested we touch base with the Historic Resources Board, had some wonderful conversations there. They had really good ideas. It's amazing the sort of institutional knowledge that exists within these advisory boards. And so that's when we struck on the idea of some sort of a recognition to be determined. There have been conversations about a bronze plaque, about a stone marker, and I think those are the things that we hope the committee comes up with and then comes back to you with a formal recommendation. In terms of paying for it, we've had a number of friends of Roger Wright's who had said, yes, I'm willing to donate. We've had conversations with the Parks and Rec Foundation. I don't think anyone envisions any city taxpayer funds going toward this. I think it's all friends of Roger Wright's and through the foundation. And so I know there are a number of people here that would like to say a couple of nice things about Roger. But before we get to that, Sharon, your family, would you guys stand up? This is Roger's family, right? And they wanted to make sure that they were here, and we wanted to make sure that they've come from far and wide, and they're eager to have Dr. Wright's recognized. So I'll be happy to stand for questions, or I'm happy to stand down and let some other folks talk.
I think I saw there was someone else who would like to make a comment.
Number of people, yes. Thank you all.
Sure. Mike, I'm sorry, can you sign in over at the podium?
Are there any other questions for me before we move to public comment? Okay, thank you.
Don't you appreciate how well I studied the materials you provided? Okay.
My name is David Lewis Guthels. Madam Mayor, Commissioners, good to see you. Thank you for the opportunity to visit with you about a man who is just, I think he's just one of the icons of the community, and Dr. Roger Wright's. The fact that he was born on Veterans Day before there was a Veterans Day, I think should not be lost on this. Yes, he was born on November 11th, served in the U.S. Army and served our community in so many different ways. I can think of no greater honor to recognize him with something at the depot, as has been mentioned, the work that he did in getting it restored. But if you have never been in his basement and seen his gigantic Lionel train collection, you've missed out on something special, and he and I have this common bond. His collection is vast, mine is not, but it gives me a great appreciation for his love of railroads, because that's something that both of us grew up with, and it was something that was very important to us and that we continue into our longer years. But he's been a wonderful man, a great friend to this community, not to mention the state and the nation in so many ways. And so I'd like to endorse this opportunity to recognize Dr. Wright's.
Dave, would you sign in, please?
All that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And let's talk later about trains. I have a couple of boxes in my basement.
Very later. I'm still moving.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is David Kreller, P.O. Box 417 here in Manhattan. Longtime association with Dr. Wright's. My bride has had the privilege of working with him in private medicine earlier in both their careers. One thing I think that I think is especially meaningful here in my endorsement of this recognition for Dr. Wright's is when we look at his public service. A lot of focus, of course, is on the train depot where this recognition might be placed, but a lot of my interaction with Dr. Roger was during his time on the commission, and I was asked to be involved not in the aspects of the train depot, but another facet of something that was important to him, and that was the animal shelter. And not the most recent, but the first expansion of the animal shelter, I was involved in that aspect on his behalf. The animal shelter, of course, goes to Roger's father's legacy, of course, is how that all came about, and that's quite an interesting story. If you're not familiar with that, ask Roger, and you'll get quite a history lesson on that as well. One thing that I especially admired about Roger, again, is his public service, and one thing that I have always admired and tried to strive for as I've worked in various volunteer aspects of public services, while he might go into a conversation with some sort of preconceived idea or outcome, he was always open-minded, and in today's world of partisanship and us against them, Roger is one of the rare elected officials, true public servants, that could be persuaded when provided the facts. He was willing to listen, he was willing to learn, and I think that's something admirable and certainly worth recognizing him in some form at the train depot. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jackie McClaskey, 3947 Hyoville Place. I was just thinking back to the very first time I met Roger Wrights was when a mutual friend told me when I was a college student that I really needed to go to the doctor. And so I met him in his office as a patient one morning at 8:30 and had no idea at that point the impact he would make on me, and probably vice versa. There's probably days where Roger thought, I wish Jackie would have never walked into my office. But I had the opportunity to become Roger's friend, most importantly, and then work with him on his city commission races, his state house races, and his state senate races. And one of the things that just stands out to me is how they just don't make people like Roger anymore. No offense intended to anyone sitting in those seats. But he is a very special man and a very special public servant. I remember very clearly during his first state house race when he was in one of your seats as city commission, I think sitting right there. And we were at the Krellers in the basement watching the election results come in one place and then watching the city commission race. And someone gave Roger the early voting tallies, which had winning. So Roger basically conceded from his seat on the bench that he had lost the race. And I'm pretty sure I drove from the Krellers to here in about 37 seconds to pull him back from his seat and said, you did not lose. The race is far from over. And that's one of my favorite Roger memories and that I can't help but think about when I stand in this room. But one of my other Roger memories was during a debate. And some of you who've played in Kansas politics for a while might remember or know a reporter by the name of Tim Carpenter who worked for the Topeka Capital Journal. And I'd known Tim a long time, and Tim knew some of my background in playing in politics, and he saw that I was there helping Roger, and he came up to me and he said, I don't understand. And I said, you don't understand what? He said, why are you helping someone who you have to disagree with on a lot politically? You two just you can't necessarily agree all the time. And I said, well, we don't, but that's not what this is about. Roger is the reason I support Roger, the reason I will work hard for Roger, the reason so many people support Roger is that he is a true public servant. We know he is going to work as hard or harder than any other elected official, that he's a true, good, genuine human being, that he is humble in the way he represents others. And in the end, he's very principled, and he's going to tell you exactly what he stands for. He's going to tell you exactly what he's going to do, and then he's going to go do it. And I told Tim that night, I said, I would rather support someone who disagrees with me when I can look him in the eye and he can be honest with me and tell me what he stands for than someone who's going to just switch positions with a whim or you really don't know who the man is. And one thing I think everyone in Manhattan knows is that he is a good man and he deserves to be recognized. So I encourage you to pass this recommendation.
Thank you, Jackie. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment?
I'm not really prepared. So I'm Russell Wrights, Roger's oldest son. Good to see you, Karen and Jim. I don't know anyone else, but
You treated my husband.
oh, okay. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I recognize you now. So anyway, different memories I have. A lot of what Jackie says I can attest to as well. He never really, he wouldn't look and see, what is the popular stance on this, but what is the right thing to do. He never was a guy who was looking out for his interests, like how is this going to benefit me, or how can I, gain from this. He was always looking out for the underdog or the person he thought needed to be looked after. Another memory I have is when I was probably 10 years old and he was up at his desk, he'd be writing checks, and I learned about, like, what is that for? Oh, this is tithing, and this is, something you just do. And the other was about his A issue politically. It wasn't abortion, it was Amtrak. And so he would write his senators and say, you need to do a better job supporting Amtrak. And then when he was getting this grant for federal funds for the train station, he donated money, and it was a matching grant, and, you know, we can get this thing done, we can get this thing brought up to snuff. And they were falling short, and he called me, he said, Russell, this train station thing's important, we're short X number of dollars, and I need you to take care of it or chip in or whatever. And it was important to him, so that's what I did.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Russell. Russell, would you sign in, please?
Yep.
Anyone else who would like to make a remark? Well, thank you all for sharing those, I don't want to say memories, but those observations about Roger.
I'd like to make a remark.
Sure.
Yeah, having spent 4 years sitting next to Roger on this right here, I would like to say that along with doing this wonderful thing to remember Roger at the depot, I would urge, and I see Ann Christian's back there, I would urge the foundation to possibly look into improving the depot a little bit. It's the noise level in there when you have meetings is significant. And if there's some way we could put some baffles up, or I don't know what you do to improve the noise, but Dave can agree with me. And so as part of this, as you're raising money, maybe just add that on to the to the brass thing or something like that, because I do think that would there would be more usage of the building, and it'd be a much more pleasant place to have meetings.
Thank you. Other commissioners, do you have any remarks?
So I would just point out, I've known Roger for many, many, many years. I think I went to him when he was a physician, but in addition to all the public service everybody has mentioned, I used to live in the neighborhood next to his. And I think at one time he had a paper route.
Yes.
For a long time, but even when he gave up that paper route, he would walk the neighborhood, and the paper boy, if he had thrown it in the street or by the curb, which they usually did, he'd throw it up on the porch so the people didn't have to walk very far to get their paper. So, I mean, that's a true public servant to deliver your paper to the front door. So I strongly endorse this idea.
All right. Would you like to make a motion?
I would make a motion.
I have one more paper voice for it, if I can tell it.
Sure. Go ahead.
So, I was probably in college at the time, and my wife and I would go over to their house for Sunday for dinner, and it'd be like the first of the month, and he'd say, you know what today is? It's payday. That the paper money would start coming in. He said, so-and-so didn't pay, I'm gonna go to his house, and I'm gonna say that'll be $4.35, and I'm gonna sock it to him.
All right. Larry?
Okay. I move approval to develop a recommendation of recognition for Dr. Roger Wrights at the Union Pacific Depot.
Second. Chelsea, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Von Lintel,
Yes.
Mayor Adamchak,
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Fox,
Yes.
Commissioner Morrison.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. We will now move into a public hearing to consider approving ordinance number 7815. Goodbye, all. Vacating the platted front yard setback line of Baltusrol Addition Lot 13.
So as the mayor just said, this is an item to hold a public hearing and approve an ordinance vacating a platted front yard setback. I'll pull this up. There's a couple of these that you'll be seeing in the coming weeks, so I wanted to give a quick background. A quick background on why we would vacate a setback. So this can be one of two ways, either through the public hearing, which we're having this evening, or it can be through a replat. The replat is a much longer process, hiring a civil engineer, so this is a much more straightforward route. Until about 5 years ago, when we would have a subdivision, people would show their platted setbacks for whatever reason. We no longer have that practice for exactly why we're here today. So this plat has an existing 25-foot platted front yard setback. The Manhattan Development Code in the RL district, the front yard setback is only 20 feet. So in order for this lot to be developed, I'm guessing they're going to want to use part of that front yard setback, that additional 5 feet. That's why they're requesting that vacation. So I don't know if there's any questions on that process that you have for me, but this is just one of two ways in which they can go about vacating a setback.
My question is, that lot's on the cul-de-sac, right?
Correct.
Do all the other lots around that cul-de-sac have the same 25-foot?
They would. Most of these are not developed right now. There's quite a few vacant lots in this subdivision, but they would be able to come forth to the commission with the same request.
Well, it seems to me that you have probably plenty to do. Would it not be wise to vacate all of them from 25 to 20 on that cul-de-sac?
Well, that would take all the property owners. They're all different. Most of them are different at this point. It would take all those property owners getting together to bring forth a replat, which would be a little bit cumbersome to try to organize.
Question answered.
So this was done before the new building code outlined
Manhattan,
20 foot.
Yep, correct. The Manhattan Development Code.
Okay, so how many other developments do we have like this that?
Most of the ones in the city, the platted front yard setbacks will not meet what the development code is. But anything that's been done since about 2020, 2021 will no longer have platted setbacks for this very reason.
Commissioners, any other comments or questions for Stephanie? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any public comment on this item? Seeing none, I will close public comment. Do we have a motion to approve this ordinance?
I move that we approve A, considering approving ordinance number 7815, vacating the platted front yard setback line of Baldesral Addition, Lot 13.
Second.
Chelsea?
Mayor Adamchak?
Yes.
Commissioner McCullough?
Yes.
Commissioner Fox?
Yes.
Commissioner Morrison?
Yes.
Commissioner Von Lintel?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. We would now move to our general agenda. We have one item tonight to consider approving the 2026 amendment to the MOVE MHK Comprehensive Parks and Recreation Master Plan, PR 2023 CIP number CP406P. Aaron.
Evening again, Mayor and Commissioners. Tonight, we're talking about the 2026 amendment to MOVE MHK. Just as a reminder, the MOVE MHK was adopted on June 18th of 2024. It has the 4 primary goals for the development of the Parks and Rec system. We do annual goal-setting processes, and then we do amendments as needed to update the plan. So we want to make sure that we're responsive to the community needs and address shifts in public interests and trends and system requirements. So again, we are trying to update this annually, a minimum with just the goals, but also amending it as needed. So the 4 goals: enhance the level of quality in parks, focus on the quality improvements that consider future needs and growth, enhance the delivery of programs and services, enhance operational efficiency and financial health of the department. So this amendment for this year really contains kind of 3 documents. The first one being the survey for indoor aquatics and the Seco Park concept that was put out through that survey. The riverfront concept that was developed by a private group of citizens and brought to both the city and both counties. And then the Flint Hills Discovery Center Sculpture Trail. Indoor aquatics, we sent out a statistically valid community survey conducted in the last half of 2025. widely received quite a bit of results, over 1,300, so an error margin of 2.6% at a 95% confidence level. So that's really good traction on that, especially when you're only seeking 400, so lots of responses. The results did show limited support for the development of any new indoor aquatics, and what that means is the majority of people did not want us to pursue indoor aquatics. So anywhere from 55%, depending on what question was asked, up to the 80 percentile was suggesting that we don't pursue any new taxes, any location, any of that for aquatics. So based on those findings, we are recommending that we do not pursue indoor aquatics at this time. And our future focus would be prioritized on reinvestment of existing parks. So that final question kind of brings that last bullet point, which we asked top priority, which streets came back at plus 80%. The number 2 on there was reinvestment into our existing parks. Riverfront, long-term conceptual vision of the access and engagement with the Kansas River. Just to be clear that adopting this into the plan does not commit the city to any projects, funding, or timelines. It simply adds the concept into the plan and then allows for us to go get public engagement on it in future surveys, which we plan to do about every 2 years. We committed to that when we did move MHK, because that's part of the frequent updating of it, and then, of course, any public meetings or stakeholder outreach that comes with that. This allows the city to evaluate the riverfront opportunities incrementally and responsively, so based on the priority that the citizens would put on it. So, and then the sculpture trail plan. So the picture here is kind of the sculpture that's been approved, and Commissioner McCullough, I know you've mentioned we've had a few extensions on that. Art operates on its own timeline sometimes, but I've seen pictures. They are making progress. So, but that would be the first piece of this, and then the sculpture plan would obviously be a framework to incorporate the public art around that. The Discovery Center obviously supports placemaking, cultural engagement, and education, and provides intentional guidance for the donor initiative and partner support of public art over time. As the Discovery Center Foundation does a lot to support the public art and amenities that surround the Discovery Center. With that, I'd be happy to, Park Board action, they did recommend the adopting the amendment, and so kind of what that looks like, if approved or adopted, we'll officially amend that the plan with the aquatic survey, riverfront concept, and the sculpture trail plan. That will be put on the website. We'll obviously push that out through our social medias, which includes the survey, those findings, the riverfront concept, and the trail plan. It would be included along with the goals that we kind of reported out for the annual report. So that would be the appendix for Move MHK for 2026. Any questions?
So the MHK document is rather lengthy. I haven't read the whole thing, but is there somewhere in there that says we're going to do valid community surveys every 2 years?
That was our commitment when we talked about it. It wasn't necessarily put in the document, but it is something that we intend to do to get public input and continue to have public input within that document.
I don't particularly like having that particular sentence included with the riverfront.
It's just part of the presentation. It's not necessarily going in. The amendment was included in the item that doesn't necessarily mention that, so.
Well, I think Jim.
Go ahead, Jim.
Well, my observation is, why are you including the results of the survey? It's been published. As far as I can tell, in the immediate future, it's a dead duck.
Mm-hmm.
So why do we keep reporting that, number one, as a part of the MHK movement? It seems to be redundant. I would hope as we send out surveys, they are better quality surveys than we saw on the water aquatics deal over the last series of times, and a lot less money. I don't know if that was one of Larry's concerns about doing a survey every 2 years, but I would hope between the commission, your staff, and the public, you can get enough input to know whether you're out in left field or you're on the bench on all of these topics without spending that kind of money for a survey. So I'm with Larry. I think the reference of every 2 years is not an appropriate one at this point for where we are and what we need. And number two is, as a critical person, critical not necessarily in thinking at times, but critical, I don't see that there's a real future in any foreseeable future on riverfront with the control that we do not have on the river flow, the maintenance of it between the core and flooding and those things, that it will ever be viable. I know there's people that have worked hard for a long time to make any entrance to our town more attractive, including the old bridge and those things. But my 70 years here and having owned land along that river, it is never going to be a pretty river. It's always going to be a dirty river with trees, logs, and crud, batteries, and tires coming down. And I just don't see any focus being worthwhile on riverfront in the foreseeable future. So I, would be asking to take it out. And as to the sculpture deal, as I understand it, our city has done nothing to come up with art within the community, not just at the Discovery Center, but there's not been a committee created to do or to talk about sculptures art elsewhere in town. Is this an opportunity to add that to this program and only have one group looking at art so we can have some consensus? That's my 3 observations about these things. Thank you.
Commissioner, I believe there had been a public art board or committee in the past that the prior commission did away with.
Well, then maybe it's time we bring it back, but we give it to one group that's going to be talking about art. And I'm not concerned just with the Discovery Center. It's a good facility, but I think other places in the community, and if we're going to have art critics, let's have art critics do one thing.
I love that you brought up public art, because that's been one of my things for a long time. We did have a committee, a board of art, and one thing we tried to do was get a procedure so that if we had any buildings, a certain percentage would go to art, 1% of the gyms or that kind of thing, so that there would be a fund. Sadly, it was done away with. That committee did put up the sculptures in 2020. Then we had COVID, so it didn't, But there's also the Deal Committee for Arts and Humanities, and I sit on that. And we have done a number of murals in town. We participated in the sculpture on Landmark Bank. I think you've probably seen that. There's also the sculpture as you come in, the concrete circle. We did also the bronzes that are in front of the Douglas Center. And of course, the zoo has done all kinds of, so there is a lot of movement to do art. Earlier, excuse me, with the chamber, I visited some university towns, and Mizzou, for example, has incredible public art, and something should be done. But I'd like to talk about the water study. Excuse me. I think that study was seriously flawed. First of all, in 2023, there was a survey that showed 77% of Manhattanites wanted to have indoor water. Then, of course, the great, huge, wherever it is, MHK thing came out. And the only, and I thought that a lot of this was really good. Went through every park in town and talked about where they ranked and if they were good, bad, what they needed. The only one, though, that they went forward and developed something new was the ginormous public swimming pool, indoor water, and gym in City Park. And as I told you, Aaron, that won't fly. And I think that's part of it. And so I don't, sticking that study in, which really doesn't prove much of anything, I don't think. We asked people if they're willing to pay 30% more taxes to have something. Nobody knew exactly what they were getting. why it should cost $60 million, what we might do to partner with other people, what we might do to get the foundation to help us, as Ames did. They got a third of theirs from private funds. So I am concerned with the shift we're seeing to pay for play. And the models that we're seeing are only benefiting sport clubs. Do we have a clean and transparent reporting of what's happening with public art and public participation? I have asked repeatedly for the usage for the first 3 months at the gyms. I asked for that in November, and then I asked for for all 6 months in January, compared to what kind of attendance we had before we started charging. I think those attendance numbers are really, really important. I also asked that the Park and Recs Board would be given the Huddle report, which the Chamber gave, which I thought was infinitely better as far as what we should do in the future and what we should develop. And I've also asked that all of these parks that we have here have some various small things that we could do to improve them. And, you know, what's our list of things we're gonna do? Warner Park, for example, is not ADA compliant. How could we make that with having some area that's paved ADA compliant? We can't make the whole thing ADA compliant because it goes up and down and in and out. But I'm just very frustrated that I don't see, coming from your department, what I think the public really wants. And I'm asking people if they would vote for 15 mil increase on their property tax is death for any project. I wouldn't, you know, no way would I ever do it. So I really want to see if we have transparent, and there were a lot of really good things, really, really good things in this report. One thing is they talked about a quality of life sales tax may be needed. Well, our quality of life sales tax is sunsetting, and I think this group ought to start right now talking about, could we continue that tax? Not a new tax, but a continued tax. I think Park and Recs needs that tax for running them. Another thing is, one of the things it said in this report is that adults have the least satisfaction with our parks and recs. There's substantial gaps in senior programming. Also, they said many programs are filled to capacity. They talked about Breakfast with Santa. Well, that's 2 mornings. Why don't we do it 4 mornings if there's that many people who want to have Breakfast with Santa? Both the mayor and I have been there to serve. There was great criticism about our activity guides, and they have all kinds of things that they felt you should be doing to improve those, and maybe you've done some of those. But things like allow payments for other than credit card, I don't know what that was all about, but it seems like we got Move MHK, and we haven't really used it. We have the chamber doing this absolutely fantastic thing, I thought. You know, they showed the fishing was something that people wanted to do. Well, so can you fish in Annenberg Park? I mean, why aren't we doing some of these things that individuals can do with their kids, not just sport teams, that kind of thing? So as I said, I'm concerned about the shift to pay for play, and that's how I feel.
Okay, so I'll take a few of those things. The rec center participation was actually reported out in our annual report that was sent out to all the commissioners. It was also presented to the park board, so it's available there. That talks about the participation, and I don't have those numbers on the top of my head. It is in that report. There's no question, I can say matter
I
of
wanted
factly.
to see a comparison.
It compared to prior years, and I will tell you that there is less participation this year than there was last year. I mean, if you move from fee to a charge, you're gonna have less participation. As far as trying to tap into programs that's identified in that. We absolutely do try to expand programs and look at different times. We continue to work through that year over year. We have seen 10% growth year over year in participation for the past 2 years. So that, I would say we're growing in the right direction. That doesn't mean we don't have other opportunities. The Huddle Up, which is about sports tourism, really recommends adding a few things into these components. And one of the things that we are trying to do based on that study is partner with Visit Manhattan to increase the tournament play here, as it was recommended in there. And one of the areas that we're looking at right now that's helping us build that is actually Steel and Pipe Ballpark. So I believe, I don't know that we've finalized it, but we have increased from 10 to 20 tournaments in this upcoming year, and we're looking to continue to add based on that. So we are continuing to work with Visit Manhattan on that report to engage in what our piece of that partnership is. There are certainly opportunities for fishing that were identified in that report. We do have a couple local fishing ponds, which would be Dishman and Annenberg, and then of course Stonehaven up off of Miller Parkway. So I think when they're talking about a fishing derby, they're speaking of a larger location, Tuttle Creek, Milford maybe, but if there was a partnership to be had, we would certainly entertain that, depending on what that would look like for Parks and Rec. So I do think we are trying to offer that information to both the Park Board, the Commission, and the public in the form of those reports. And obviously we'll see what happens once we've got a full year of data mid-year this year with rec centers and attendance. But yeah, we're certainly trying to pursue these things, and we are certainly trying to make the small improvements that we can that are within our budget. So
It'd be great to see a list of those, though, to see, and not to have to go through this ginormous bunch of facts and figures, just to have a readout of this park, here's what they need, this park, here's what they need, with some dollars next to it. So maybe we could have a capital improvements thought on what we want to designate our our payments to.
it is actually the last Chapter 7 within Move MHK has the priority list and each park and
Yeah, for each park.
the estimated value of the cost of those improvements. So A being the most needed, B being mid, and C being the long term.
Yeah.
So.
So I agree with Karen on, I would like to see some smaller things happening kind of at every park. Dog parks is one of the ones that I think the community could use a few more dog parks. I think that the 3 rec centers should be free, and that it really hit a lot of the community hard when what they felt was a promise was broken. So I think me and Karen would agree on that.
I think too that, sports tourism is really important, and we can do things that we've got this wonderful Seco, layout. But perhaps the gyms we shouldn't try and have basketball tournaments. I mean, you've said it's hard to do it with 2 things, and if I paid my $40 so my kid can go, play in the gym, then on the weekend it's closed because there's a tournament. I mean, it's just kind of a, problem. Because I'm worried that we're getting away from, as I said, I'm seeing this shift to pay for play. And if I'm already paying to go to that gym and I can't play, yeah, it's just a balancing act. And I understand you're trying to make as much revenue as you can and bring people into town, and I think that's super. But I do think we're also subsidizing many different sports because we think it's important for our kids and our adults to have leisure activities, to be healthy, to be occupied and busy, especially kids, doing something constructive, not doing something that's not constructive. And I was especially amazed that they said that adults have the least satisfaction. Perhaps adults don't need some of the things that Park and Recs provides. We've got the MAC, we've got, other things that adults can do. But that was brought out pretty strongly in the Move MHK plan.
Yeah, so, I mean, we've certainly worked adult sports programs. We've, the partnership with the MAC, expanding their clay studio into CPAC and City Park, are areas of where we've tried to, some of that's youth as well, but areas where we've tried to expand that. We've worked members-only basketball for the rec centers, where we're actually running that at a time that we are normally shut down, so that they can have access to the courts in the winters when they're so packed. So that was something we just kind of started out of the idea. So when we do the rec centers, our commitment was to have a court open for drop-in play. And there were a couple, I'd say, scheduling mistakes this year that we had to make amends for, but that commitment stands firm for me, that we need to have an open court every day, including when we have tournaments. Sometimes that's Douglas. So I do think that we are trying to satisfy both ends of that. Removing fees obviously has a budget impact. We've successfully reduced our subsidy by over $1 million over the past 2 years. We offer the scholarship fund, so those that can't afford, and we issued $83,000 in that last year. Thankfully, the foundation backed that, so they made us quote-unquote whole as far as those registration fees go. We've expanded our day camp program. We've got further expansion this year, so there are always opportunities that are out there that we are continuing to try to take and fulfill. And when things are brought to us, our immediate answer isn't no. Our immediate answer is this something we can do? And we do try to do that if it's brought to us. So,
Commissioners, I think we have strayed, I think this is an important discussion, but I think we've strayed somewhat from our topic of the evening and the body of this particular item before us. I would like to suggest that we schedule a work session with Aaron, perhaps in late April, after another quarter of data are available for use of the rec centers, and we can continue to have this dialogue, give Aaron a heads up about what type of data we would like to see, so that he can, it's clear from his explanations that he does have information to provide, a checklist of what has been done at the parks over the last 2 years. I know equipment has been replaced. The Blue Earth Plaza water feature is being redone. So I would like us to refocus on the discussion at hand, whether we agree with amending the Move MHK with the addition of these 3 documents. That being said, I do have a question for you, Aaron, which is, I was also a little bit puzzled about including the results of the survey in there. Yeah. Is that in part to provide the reader with a rationale for why that particular item is not being pursued?
Yeah, so the intent of that is to bring that item to a resolution. We were tasked with doing the survey. We completed that survey. Regardless of how we would move forward, this is a point in time that would go into that document to inform that overall progress over time. So it's really about record keeping, so to speak, that more so than I guess maybe whether we agree with the methodology or not.
I think this goes to the point of, we've been talking over the last several years about some very ambitious visioning plans for our community, and I would highlight the Move MHK and as well as the East Gateway Plan, the work that's being done to look at expansion along Highway 24. These are all living documents. These are visions. They're a plan. In my mind, and I think this is accurate, this is laying out what we want to do, what we hope we can do, it's a roadmap to get somewhere. Some of these things will not ever see the light of day. Some of them will. And for that reason, I would approve putting all three of these items in the plan. I think that the riverfront, we can disagree about whether we see that as something that would ever be developed, but it's an excellent report. It shows a real commitment on the part of members of our community who shepherded that project into fruition, who had a number of community engagement opportunities to gain feedback on that. It was very professionally done, and I would like to see it as part of our record, with the idea that we're not committing at this time to any expenditures related to that, but that we do have a vision for what that part of Manhattan might look like. I think Commissioner Marson raises some good points about, we can't control what the Army Corps of Engineers is doing 5 miles up the road, but that's another discussion for another time, I think.
Aaron, have we had discussions with the Army Corps of Engineers or Union Pacific about going over the levee?
No, I mean, I would suggest that we have not as city staff. I would have to have potentially Tracy, who is in the audience, who worked on the plan, could maybe answer that question. But we basically took this citizen-generated report. It was presented to previous commission and both for the city and both counties. And the recommendation was for adoption into the Move MHK to capture further feedback later on. So,
I have a more crass question. In the first survey for the pool, had you told them what you expected the cost to be, do you think you'd have gotten a 77%? Yeah, the boy, let's do it?
no, the intent of this survey was to ask based on the amenities that they selected in that initial survey, which were included in the development of the pricing, if they wanted to pay for it.
And the next thing, it seems to me, is I'm concerned about Seco is going to be the Taj Mahal and a wonderful facility. You're not short of vision of quality. But the financial issue is like when we had the retreat and we were talking about needs at the cemetery, both of them. That number of 13,500,000 or whatever it was staggering. And when I talked to one of your people on the cemetery board, they said, yeah, we talked about all those wonderful, never heard a number. And he said, had I heard that number, I'd have said no on most of it. I'm thinking our marketing, you are not giving people in our committees what they need to do to help us and you make a competent decision. Now, I mean, I'm so old, I remember getting to go down to City Park and we'd show up and play ball on the ball diamonds, whoever showed up. And Mr. Baker's down there, kind of a quasi-informal referee, making sure we played fair. I don't see that there's any encouragement for kids to show up, and there certainly won't be any at Seco Park, it would appear to me, if their gates aren't open. So I'm just saying that's a transition on how we treat. And quite truthfully, I'm not interested in increasing or continuing the sales tax for Parks and Rec unless there are some stringent requirements on what, when, where, and how, and who gets to approve what's being done. I think it's been way too loose, and we really have no control over where you spend the money. So, just for one, as you prepare what you think you need and want in the future, be prepared for me to say no unless it is substantially restricted. And I don't think we can afford one more blooming thing that's even close to the pool or the other ideas. And we do need to maintain what we've got. And if you can't do it for whatever your budget is, $9 million, then we may need to readdress what is being done. And that's all I'm saying is your swimming pool might have succeeded if you had had a number that some people could have comprehended. $60 million was just, I mean, the horse jumped the fence and wasn't in the race anymore. That was crazy. Had it been 8, 9, 10, and it had been some kind of other park water, it might have passed. But there isn't anybody at this table, I think, that would have thought 60 million was even the practical number. So I think you need to back off and pay attention to what money we can afford, not what would be nice.
Well, Commissioner, just for your reference, the cemetery board did vote to recommend approval of that item last year, so they did
Did they
see
know
it.
the number 13.5?
Yeah.
Well,
They
the
had
fellow that I talked to must not have been at that meeting.
They had all that information. We brought it to them, and we even reported it out to Park Board as well.
So a lot has been said here, and I'm all for amending the move in MHK if it needs to be amended, but I'm not sure why, but I don't really like the wording in these proposed amendments, particularly with the aquatic center. It says the survey findings indicated limited community support for constructing a new indoor aquatics facility. Well, they had limited support for paying $60 million for it, is what they had. I think there's a lot of support for one, but it's how do we pay for it? And the community has not been given the option of developing a smaller type facility with less fancy stuff and looking at paying for it with philanthropic dollars. As I've said in the past, we've built a lot of facilities in this town with donated money, and I don't know why that couldn't be one as well. Maybe even raise money to operate it. So I don't like that language in that paragraph because I don't think that's accurate.
Commissioners, may I remind you that we are considering approving this amendment. If we do not feel the amendment should be made, we can table this motion. And
You suggested a workshop, so maybe we need to
I
do
am
that.
just suggesting we are straying from the task in front of us. I'm not diminishing the importance of what opinions are being expressed, but we're not accomplishing this goal. And so do we want?
I don't think we're straying. I think we're saying that we don't think that the survey should be added because I think it's seriously flawed. If we put it down there in black and white, everybody's gonna think that's exactly what nobody in Manhattan wants an indoor pool. I'm not trying to sell a pool, I'm just trying to give it a fair shake. If 77% were asked in 2022, and, that said they wanted indoor water, now, maybe they were never told what it would cost, and therefore 77. But I think to say there's no support for indoor water is totally wrong. And I just think nobody's going to be able to have an opinion unless we have some numbers and, flesh this out. I don't know what pools cost, but Wamego seems to have built one, and I don't think they spent $60 million.
We can also redo the amendment and say we would prefer to exclude that survey from an addendum to move MHK, include the sculpture path and the riverfront project, and omit the survey at this time. Or we can table, as I said.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I move that we table this motion until we've had a work session where we can at least have a more open venting of what we really want and need and can afford.
Second.
Chelsea? Oh, I'm sorry. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment on this item on the agenda?
Amber Starling, 408 Houston Street. Thank you, Commissioner Morrison.
I make the suggestion. Chelsea, sorry, Sue. Please.
Sue Mays, 428 Wickham. I'm on the Parks Board. I'm not speaking because of the Parks Board, but I think Mr. Morrison's comment needs to be fleshed out because I don't quite know what that means and how you would include members of the Park Board in assisting with these efforts, but it was very vague. So if I would go back to the Park Board to try to tell them what I heard tonight, I guess I would need more clarification. I imagine Aaron does too, as to what the commission would like to see for parks.
I'm Phil Anderson. I live at 1719 Fairchild Avenue. And along with Tracy Anderson of Anderson Knight Architects, we have spent the last year developing a riverfront master plan and have shown it to many dozens of Manhattanites. The three new commissioners have not necessarily, I don't know that you've seen it, but we would like the opportunity to show it to you. We can do that in Tracy Anderson's office or somewhere else. It takes about 45 minutes. These designs were put together by a Kansas City landscape architecture firm. The firm's name is MCLV. The owners are Derek Hootmer, Kevin Cunningham, both K-State landscape architecture grads, very skilled. I could tell you very quickly, oh, my time is running out, I won't. I will contact the three commissioners who are new by email and offer the opportunity to see these designs. The former commissioners have all seen them. Everybody who has seen these designs, I think my interpretation is that they were enthusiastically optimistic about the opportunity that that river provides. That is, by the way, the longest prairie river on earth at 173 miles. In 1854, it was described as crystal clear and teeming with fish. Other riverfront developments in Kansas, including even a small city like Council Grove, if you've not seen that, I would urge you to look at it. In Wichita, that project started about 10 or 12 years ago and has already generated over $800 million of private investment money. Salina, which has a ditch for a river, has already generated $250 million in private investment money in an attempt to develop the riverfront in an ecological way, but also a way to engage green space and recreational opportunities. So I will contact each of you by email and hope that you will give us the opportunity to show this idea, which we are, of course, enthusiastic about.
Phil, perhaps we could have our city-county meeting. You talk to that group, because if we're talking about the riverfront, the county, Fairmont Park, would be a natural addition to it. And the county has a number of parks. And it might be good just to hear what they're doing with their parks and what parks. Obviously, they even have, Seco Park, and they have the playground there, and Seco Park is theirs.
Appreciate that, Commissioner McCullough. Tracy and Phil actually was my first city-county meeting as the Manhattan City Manager when they did present the riverfront. We haven't seen any turnover on the county commissioners, so I'm not sure if they would be interested in hearing that again, but I do think it would be an excellent opportunity for our three new commissioners to sit down with Phil and Tracy and see those concepts. So
I've seen it. I think the young man in the back presented at the Optimist Club. It looks familiar and it sounds familiar, and I've seen the drawings and the schematics. Were you there, Larry?
I have seen it as well at that Optimist Club presentation, so.
But
It's a great idea.
I just
have nothing
think
against the
that
idea.
talking to the county about keeping this on the back burner would be a good idea, just to see what their input is. And obviously, we do share Seco Park with them, and they have other parks throughout the county. We did a study of where future parks should be about 20 years ago. And, you know, sometimes it's a good idea to have an idea of where you might want to have a park so you can develop that slowly.
Tracy?
Hi, Commissioners. Tracy Anderson, 116 E.J. Frick Drive. And, yeah, I remember both of you being at Optimist. And Phil and I have presented to probably every service club, every commissioner, every county commissioner, the county, and everybody in between, even Tom Hawk and Sidney Carlin and others, right? We hit the gamut with it. So almost everybody has seen it now. And I just do want to reiterate, Susan, you kind of alluded, Mayor Adamchak, you kind of alluded to this. It's an aspirational vision, just no different than K-State's master plan for their campus, no different than the East Gateway study. But if you don't have a vision, you don't have an idea of where can we go. And that's my goal for the community of Manhattan is what's possible? Where could we go? If all of a sudden we see a lot of companies relocating, people relocating to Manhattan, that would be a wonderful problem to have. Well, then all of a sudden that relieves our tax burden as much as we would like it to. And now we have some vision, and that's what Move MHK is all about too. It's a living document. None of that is going to manifest exactly as drawn. Did we contact KDOT or the railroad about a pedestrian bridge going up and over that? No, we didn't yet. It's a vision. That would all have to be dealt with. And as somebody said, if anything were to ever happen with that, just like the East Gateway study, there's going to be future committees and everybody involved to help direct that. I did want to address something I thought I heard Commissioner Morrison say about the 2017 quality of life sales tax and it not maybe doing or was wild spending or something. I feel like the 4 items that was intended to do, it did very well, and it's getting ready to sunset, whether it gets extended or not. But the 4 items that were set out that sales tax was meant to do, it has done, and it's provided additional opportunities and quality of life amenities in our community. So I just want to make sure that was fairly clear, because I do think it worked out well for our community, and it did exactly what it was intended to do and what we promised the citizens that it would do. So,
Thank you, Tracy. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment? In that case, we will close public comment. Chelsea, can you poll the commission, please?
Commissioner McCullough,
Yes.
Commissioner Fox,
Yes.
Commissioner Morrison,
Yes.
Commissioner Von Lintel,
No.
Mayor Adamchak.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1.
I would move to adjourn it unless Danielle has something she'd like to.
I have nothing to share this evening. Thank you.
All in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, commissioners.
Would you like to look at this?